Hey guys, Crawlspace Kiefer here with Coffee and Crawl Spaces. Hopefully you guys got your coffee and now we're going to talk crawl spaces. So what I want to touch on this episode is how does mold, or does mold even, affect the indoor living space if it's growing in the crawl space? And what we're going to do is swing over to a study that was done, and we're going to read that study together. So let's go over to that right now. Okay, so here we have this study on vented crawl spaces as mold amplification and delivery systems, measured performance in a dry alternative. So here is the study. Researchers tested hypothesis that traditional well-vented crawl spaces in southeastern United States contain moisture that supports mold growth, insects, rots, and contains adequate duct leakage to create pathways for transmission of mold from crawl spaces into the living spaces. Most of us in the crawl space industry know this, but having technical documents like this that you include in your sales material or that you direct your potential client or potential customer, in your case, potential customer to, is gold. So you want to have things that back up these statements that you make on social media or when you're pitching people. So it's not just your interpretation. This creates trust, right? So fungal air sampling was conducted indoors, outdoors, and in the crawl space for 45 vented crawl space houses. Air leakage testing determined the connections between the house, crawl space, and HVAC systems located in the crawl space, right? It determined the connection between the house, crawl space, and HVAC system located in the crawl space. Very important that you understand that. Okay, the relative contribution of crawl space mold or crawl spaces mold species and species found outdoors and in the home living spaces were compared. The results indicate that typical wall vented crawl spaces contain liquid water, moisture vapor, and fungal spores. Nothing that we didn't already know in our industry, but not the common homeowner. The house also contain measurable holes between the crawl space and living space. When I owned my crawl space company, I used to talk about this all the time. They further contain natural and mechanical forces like the stack effect that drive air across the holes. Results comparing fungal species in the home crawl spaces and outdoor show transmission of fungal spores from the crawl space to the living space. I'm going to read that one more time. They further contain natural and mechanical forces that drive air across the holes. Very important that you're explaining that to your potential customer. Results comparing fungal species in the home, crawl space, and outdoors show transmission of fungal spores from the crawl space to the living space. You guys should be beating this to death. Don't just talk about solving their moisture problems. You need to be talking about how you're solving their indoor air quality problems. So we'll continue on now. High moisture levels in vented crawl spaces in the southeastern United States were linked to high mold counts inside the living space. One more time, let's drive this home. High moisture levels in vented crawl spaces in the southern eastern United States were guys, linked to high mold counts inside the living space. This independent study confirmed the transmission of mold growing in the crawl space into the living space. All right, let's continue on. The parallel research, the study team, did I miss a part here? Oh, no. All right. In parallel research, the study team tested a closed crawl space configuration designed to bring the crawl space moisture load to an acceptable level. The configuration included sealed foundation vent walls, or wall vents, a sealed polyethylene film liner, and 1 CFM of HVAC supplied air for each 30 square feet of ground surface. The study was conducted at 12 identical floor plan houses co-located in the southern eastern United States. Comparative moisture measurements for these crawl spaces were sub-metered heat pumps used to demonstrate that the closed crawl space protocol produce substantially drier crawl spaces, reducing conditions for mold, wood decay, and insects. It's also reduce space conditioning energy use by 15 to 18% annually. So this right here confirms how much better a conditioned crawl space is, or an encapsulated crawl space. So this is legitimizing the service that you're probably trying to get the customer to sign for, which is crawl space encapsulation, right? So here's the problem. Here's the solution, that you should be delivering them in those orders in your marketing material as well. All right. Building codes often require foundation vents to allow air exchange between the crawl space and outdoor in order to provide a drying mechanism for crawl spaces. However, the southeastern United States, where moisture content of outdoor air in summer often exceeds the crawl space air, the outdoor air does not act as a drying mechanism when introduced into the crawl space. All right. So builders, insulators, and other contractors often receive complaints about moisture conditions in crawl space. Hardwood floor installers often experience dissatisfied customers when floor cups or floors are coupling and buckling. Further, the literature suggests a strong association between building moisture and the detrimental health outcomes, including asthma. Approximately 20% of new homes in the United States are built on vented crawl space foundations, and an estimated 26 million existing homes are on or have vented crawl space foundations. Right? We'll read this last part real quick and talk about this. Characterization, fungal levels and transmission pathways to the living space. This research demonstrates that there are pathways and driving forces sufficient to cause transmission of pollutants from the crawl space to the occupied space in a sample of 40. So this study absolutely confirms the transmission of fungal growth going from the crawl space into the living space, triggering asthma and all kinds of other different problems. Certain people can be susceptible to the mycotoxin, have mycotoxosis, and a bunch of other things. These again, you want to really include this types of studies with your marketing material in anything that you're handing the customer, because this will legitimize what you're trying to sell. So make sure that everybody in your company is repeating this as well, and that you're handing this out with all your stuff. Now, to talk more about this, I'm going to be having my wife come on the show for our podcast more often. Her name's Liz Kiefer, and she is an industrial hygienist. She used to own our prior company that did crawl space encapsulation, mold remediation, all that. She was our IAQ person. She's actually encapsulated crawl spaces many a times. There was a point where it was just me and her. She can wrap columns better than most out there. Super, super fast. But she is a council certified indoor CIEC, which is the highest you can get. And we're going to be bringing her on the show as our industrial hygienist to talk about how these crawl space problems are affecting people indoors as well. So we'll be looking forward to having her on the show regular. So guys, I hope this was good information. I will include a link to this particular document in the comments below, or in the description below. And if you guys have any questions, please let us know in the comments below. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll also have a link to our Facebook group where you guys can get more information how to grow your crawl space, basement waterproofing, or in foundation repair business. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and take care.